my screen. Good. 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 What's happening here? Okay. There we go. So let me welcome all of you again to this evening's webinar. My name is David Homer. I am a doctor in naturopathic medicine. I have been in clinical practice for 25 years. I retired from clinical practice 5 years ago, but I'm still very much involved in the health and wellness arena, but from a different perspective and from a broader and deeper perspective. Whole Living Transformation is my brand, if you can call it that, and it's all about navigating life with spiritual awareness. The topic that we're talking about this evening is the future of health and healing. And it's a very important one because we are living in a time where we need to have answers and we need to have solutions to life in general in many aspects. And the aspect of health and healing is a major one. Let me begin by saying that health and healing, they're two sides of the same coin. We can only truly have health because healing is a perpetual flow and reality. And if we don't have health, then that perpetual flow of healing has been somehow interrupted. I'm going to validate that and explain that in a while. Now, I'm going to, perhaps I should maybe preface everything with maybe an idea that or let me just share perspective that we can all may be able to relate to. What I'm going to be sharing, some of it I'm sure is going to be familiar to many of you, perhaps all of you, and some of it may not be. It's a paradigm shift in thinking. It's a paradigm shift in an approach to health and healing. It is the most natural approach, but it requires a paradigm shift in understanding and thinking. And the reason why it's important for me to say that up front is because when it comes to new information and new shifts, there's usually a hesitancy sometimes to embrace and to accept, and it often takes time before these things can be embraced. There are many things in history we can relate to. We could all relate to, there's a time when slavery was culturally accepted, economically, politically, even religiously. It was accepted as a natural institution. And then when the abolitionists came along and they fought against it, politically and economically and culturally, it was violently pushed back against slavery. Now today, globally, it's accepted that it's not right, that humans should be enslaved. So whether it be that or whether it be a time when we thought that the earth was flat, and if you go too far, you'll fall off the edge, people who opposed that, they were ostracized, or whether it be when it was thought and it was taught that the earth was the center of the universe and that the sun revolved around the earth. And when Galileo came up with his telescope and showed that it was the opposite way around, he was arrested and put in jail. My point is that when new information, what we know, what we presently know about health and healing, we think that that's all there is, and that we have the answers within the context of what we have available now. I'm suggesting that there is way more, and that the time is going to come in the future, hence the future of health and healing, where we are going to recognize that what we have been doing now has been, while it is good and while it may save lives, it is far off from delivering the true value of health and healing. And so be open-minded to some things that you may hear that you may not be familiar with, and just do your research, investigate, explore, but do not be quick to reject. And as I always say to people who I work with, you don't have to believe what I'm saying, but just test it. Test it, because if it is true, there is a way in which it can be proven it is true. So let's begin by looking at what the definition of health given by the World Health Organization. They say that health is a state of complete physical, mental, I inserted spiritual and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. What I want to pull out of this is that it is not the absence of disease or infirmity. And for my years in clinical practice and working with thousands of people in numerous countries, by and large, we generally have the idea that if we don't feel sick, we are healthy. That could not be further from the truth. In fact, if we think that we're healthy because we don't feel sick, I promise you it will lead you to a disease one day. So it's not what is the absence of, it is what is the presence of. And if it's complete, it must be physical, mental, and spiritual, which I inserted there because that is the three-dimensional makeup of the human being. And it is that wholeness of being within the context of the social framework of life and how we interact with that. But what I want to highlight in this definition is that health is a state. It's not a feeling. It's a state of being. And that state of being encompasses every dimension of our life. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially. There is no aspect of our life that does not interplay into what we call health. So let's begin with that, because our general idea, not only we think that not feeling sick means we're healthy, we generally think that health is just about our body. Health is about you, not just your body, but all of you. And if we're going to understand true health and live a healthy, disease-free life, and also tap in to the marvel of our very design and how we can recover from any condition. I don't care what you call it. I don't care how grave it is. I don't care what medicine has labeled it. There is no disease condition you cannot recover from. Now, I'm just going to explain how that all works. And we're going to see that what we're going to talk about will tap in. While the topic is health and healing, the principles that we're speaking into in this regard taps into every other aspect of life, whether it be the social aspect, relationships, our financial aspects, our any aspect of our life. The principles are going to be the same. But we're going to stay within our focus this evening. So we understand that health is a state of being. This is very important because this is what we face today in the world. A global pandemic, which the World Health Organization calls the global burden of disease. This is every country on our planet is within this. And it's a global pandemic in that it takes more lives on our planet than any other cause. You can combine wars, violence, accidents, you can combine all the other forms of death on the planet, and none of them come close to what lifestyle disease, which is what we are focusing on, chronic diseases that's induced by our style of living, nothing takes more life. We had a COVID pandemic a few years back that shut the world down. And in the 2 years that they had this shut down, 20 million lives were lost or thereabouts. But here, this pandemic of lifestyle disease, 15 million people every year. And if you go onto the World Health Organization website, they say that in the next decade, they're projecting it is going to get much worse. My question is, if our understanding and our approach, our increase in knowledge, the advent of technology, our improvements, why are we, and if what we're doing is correct, why is it not reducing but projected to get worse? Something is missing in our understanding and our approach. But I want us to understand that disease, as grave as these numbers are, and the statistics that are expected to rise, disease is not the problem. It is just the outcome. The outcome of what? The outcome of our style of living. It just always interests me over the years that we call it lifestyle diseases, but in our approach to try to deal with the outcome of our style of living, we don't really address the style of living. We just address the outcome. And so we have control, we have management, we have relief, but we don't have a restoration of health and true healing, which restores health. We're not really getting that for the most part. It does exist, but that's the minority. And so we have a global pandemic here that's facing the world. According to the World Health Organization, the majority of the people on the planet, we're going to leave this planet one day by one of these diseases. But that's not just leaving the planet by disease. It doesn't just happen suddenly. For some, it may, but it robs us of a quality of life over the years. So I want to issue a wake-up call to health, beginning by us taking a step back and recognizing the high value of our life. Because generally, when the value of a thing is not recognized, we tend to take it for granted. And it certainly is true when it comes to our health. But you cannot separate health from our life, because health is every aspect of our life, physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially. So our whole life is wrapped up in this thing that we call health. And when we take life for granted, because we don't fully recognize its value, we end up, it's part of the reason we end up going down this road. And there's a reason why we take that perspective as well, which we're going to touch on. But we are indeed living longer because of technology and know-how, but we are not living healthier. And instead of thriving as we are meant to and are equipped to, we're only surviving, leading to a lesser quality of life and unrealized potential. Now, my work over the years, clinically, and I've also been in the work of ministry, and I work with people all the time. People struggle to realize their true potential, their reason for being, their purpose, etc. Folks, you and I, we are remarkable beings, extraordinary beings with such capacity that if it were told to us, we may even doubt it, that we really have the potential to live a life that is unimaginably beautiful, successful, and optimal in every way. And we may just even touch it just a little bit as we go through. You may read between the lines and see that. But this is a wake-up call to start to value our lives. Every 3 out of 4 deaths worldwide is caused by this lifestyle-related chronic disease. And part of it is because we're taking our life for granted because we're not fully recognizing its value. And as a result, we don't deal with, we don't understand health in its full value, and we deal with disease as it is the problem. And the problem is deeper. You see, to perceive and address disease as the problem is like trying to mop up water from a leaking pipe without fixing the pipe itself. You may dry the floor and the floor may stay dry temporarily, but it's going to leak again and the floor is going to get wet. My wife said to me yesterday that I believe that people are walking around with all kinds of things going on inside and they're completely unaware. That is 100% true. When I was in the clinic, the work that I did using various modalities of blood, using biofeedback modalities, looking at and assessing people's health from the inside, I can tell you for certain that we're all walking around with deficiencies, imbalances, weaknesses, and things that are forming and shaping that will show up one day. Disease does not just appear, it takes time. And we all have it going on. That's why we cannot think that not feeling sick means that we're well. The thing is, that is like the leaking pipe. And from time to time, we may have symptoms come up and we may mop it up. We may mop up. But I want us to understand that disease is not the problem. Disease is just the signal that there is a problem. It's not the source. We need to fix the pipe. We need to fix the pipe so there's no more leak. We need to not be mopping up the floor anymore. And that's where we're going to go. We're going to go and look at how we can fix the pipe so that there is no leak. And if there's any mopping to be done, it's not just temporary, it is going to be for a better quality of life all the way to the end. So are you saying that we're not supposed to die of disease? Absolutely not. We're supposed to live until we die, but not from a disease. That's the reality of it. But this thing has become so common because of those statistics from that global pandemic. It is so pervasive and it's so common that we have actually accepted that that is the normal way to go. Sooner or later, something will take you. Sooner or later, as you get old enough, you're going to get a disease. Right? That's natural. It's not. It's common. It's not normal. Not when you understand how this thing works and you understand the value and the nature of who we are and what we possess. And so healing is by design, how we are designed to function. And in medicine and in healthcare, there are two types of healing that is spoken about. There's what they call innate healing, and there's what they call spontaneous healing. Innate healing is how the body has the capacity to heal itself, but in medicine, we think that it's only to a point, meaning that there is a point to which your body cannot heal itself. It could only do that to a point. However, spontaneous healing, which is also medically documented, shows that that's not true, because spontaneous healing, and this is something you may want to do research on if you're not familiar, there's lots of documentation on it. Spontaneous healing refers to healing that occurs without an apparent cause or without any specific type of treatment. And it's usually healing from what is deemed life-threatening or terminal conditions that there's no medical cure and the people completely recover from it without any specific treatment. It also ties in with what people call, what we're commonly known as the placebo effect, where there's lots of medically documented information that shows that what they call the placebo effect, a person's belief and expectation actually causing a biological change in the body where healing or improvement or recovery can happen. Folks, all that is saying is that as a human being, body, mind, and spirit, there is a biological, a spiritual, a mental, and emotional, there's an intelligence built in to how we are designed. That healing is a very natural thing. We just need to understand it. So innate healing, the capacity of our bodies to recover from any illness, It is a creative flow that is encoded into the human design. And it's like, to get to conceptualize it, it's like the flow of life, the flow of a river, so to speak. It is what makes everything grow. It is what measures the movement of the cosmos, everything in nature. It's why a seed will grow from the ground. It is why coral will grow under the sea. It is why a sperm cell knows how to find an egg cell, and at conception, a miraculous process begins to unfold. And it is so precise and organized, it forms the structure that we inhabit today. We're sitting here and we're all together in here in these bodies. And if you cut your hair, it's going to grow back. If you clip your nails, it's going to grow back. If you cut your hand, it's going to mend and it's going to start. It's all instantaneous and it's all automatic. It's a flow of life. It's the rhythm of life, the rhythm of creation that is infinite. It never stops. And it's perpetual. It's happening right now at the cellular level. If a cell becomes damaged, it's instantly being repaired. If it's not, something is just simply blocking that flow. Right now, as we sit here, with every second that passes, millions of cells are dying and millions of cells are being recreated. It's a creative flow. It's constantly creating new. This is the natural rhythm of life all across the universe, all across nature, and certainly here within the human body. It's not just a broken bone that mends by itself. No doctor mends it. They just may set it back in place and it knits itself back together. It's not just that, it happens with everything. So if we develop what is a condition that has a name, that they call a lifestyle disease, and your body is not repairing from it, something is interrupting that flow. Because as spontaneous as all the records, documented records have shown, that people with such conditions that are deemed incurable recover from them. And there's a reason why that happens. But I want us to understand that within our DNA, which has the blueprint of our life, lies that sacred script of wholeness, our mind, body, spirit, and how it's designed to function in unison. It's an encoded wisdom orchestrated by divine design to continually keep restoring, renewing, realigning. It happens all throughout creation. The next time you look at your garden and you see when the flowers open, that's the same flow. When leaves fall and a new leaf comes back, it's the same creative flow, and it's happening inside us all the time. It is a creative flow that's encoded into our very design. And it's not just the body is self-healing, it is the human being, because the body does not exist in and of itself. It only has life because it is animated life through the very energy and essence of spirit that enlivens it. So it's all one whole. Remember, health is about you, not just your body. So this is the context of what we are working with, is that we don't need to know how to heal the body. We don't need to know how healing is not something to initialize, something to stimulate, something to make happen. It never stops. Healing is something that needs to be released or unblocked and let it happen naturally. That is the reality of it, and there is no limit to what it, and this is all scientifically all validated. The thing is, nobody brings this to the table and tells us, how can we, if this is true, how can we experience the reality of this? And so we're going to be getting into that. The human potential to heal has been known as way back before BC, from the father Hippocrates, who's called the father of medicine. from since back then all through the millennia, it's always been known that the human being has the capacity to heal and regenerate from anything and everything. So that natural healing force within us is the greatest force of wellness. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a neuroscientist and someone you may want to look up his work, because what he's doing in his work, which is revealing spontaneous healing, and the books he's writing, it's absolutely amazing. He said that the body has the intricate capacity to heal itself once we remove the interference, especially the interference of the mind. Dr. Bruce Lipton, the father of epigenetics and a cellular biologist, he says the moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. Now, that is so profoundly powerful. That is all speaking of all of this is speaking to the fact that what goes on the inner being, the mind, the soul, the heart, that is what's orchestrating what's going on inside the body. Dr. Deepak Chopra, a well-renowned integrative medicine pioneer, he said that the physical body is a field of energy, transformation, and intelligence. And when given the right conditions, and that's what we want to create the right conditions, it knows how to return to balance and heal spontaneously. The future of health and healing is not externally. It's not in medicines. We already possess the greatest healing potential, healing force, healing capacity, the greatest thing that can make our bodies well and restore us to a place of health. It already resides within us. We now just have to understand that. So we're going to launch off with this. Thomas Edison was an inventor back in the 1800s. He's known for what we know as the light bulb today. He made this statement that the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame in diet and in the cause and prevention of disease. I want to highlight will give no medicine because we're in the age of technology now. We're more and more technology is coming to the forefront, and we do need the help of technology because of technology, we have been able to advance in medicine to where we have diagnostic capabilities and even interventions because of technology that has moved us so far ahead. But we're doing this with an old mindset, with an old context, an old paradigm of understanding. But the doctor of the future will give no medicine. And we're going to show where we have come today, where this is possible for everything with the understanding that healing, the potential already resides within us. The cause and the prevention of disease, we're going to talk about that. But Thomas Edison, when he created the light bulb as we know it, he created this technology. That technology changed the world. And as I alluded to in the beginning, even though it was a transformative shift, completely transformative to what was known for creating light back then, which were just open flames, people saw it as just another option because of our mindset, what we're accustomed to, what we've been taught, our context of understanding. It took more than a generation for the light bulb to be culturally accepted, and now today it's all over the world. What we're going to be talking about is going to be along the same lines, because our mindset is, if the doctor told you tomorrow that we have found a tumor here or a tumor there, or that you now we have discovered that you have X condition or Y condition, the last thing that we're going to think about is the capacity that we have to heal it. The first thing we're going to think about is, so what can I take? What do I need? We are going to default automatically to thinking, what externally do I need to take? And don't get me wrong, these things are valuable and needed, and there are times when they're absolutely necessary, and there are times when they will save our life. So you understand what I'm saying now at the beginning, that we're talking about a paradigm shift in thinking about an understanding of what true health and healing is. And the thing is, that future is already here. So let's move forward now that this is our direction, that while medicine may have its place, there is a place now. We are in a time of technology and a time of understanding of the marvels of the human design where healing can be done without medicine, if we are willing to step up to it. And it will involve the use of technology, which I'm going to introduce you to a technology to support that inner healing that already exists, the capacity that we already possess. I'm going to introduce you to a technology that interfaces with that, that harnesses that and enhances that, so that we can move forward into a new era of wellness that never existed before. The technology, it has no medicine, it has no frequencies, it has no substances, it has no ingredients, it has no, you don't need any equipment, nothing like that. But that capacity that we have to heal, it amplifies that. And so it's all about what lies within, healing from within, we amplify it and watch the miracle that lies within us do the work. And so let's get into it with this. The understanding is that the framework of all chronic disease is what I call fractured living. And fractured living is essentially a state of inner disconnection where one becomes divided between our true divine nature and an adopted ego-based identity. And this chart kind of models that. So instead of our sense of worth and being anchored in divine qualities of things like love and truth, and this is all scientific, what I'm telling you, the mind and heart seeks meaning, value, and identity through external qualities like achievements, appearances, possessions, what I own, what I do. That's where my sense of identity and worth comes from. Because from the time we are children growing up, we are taught to take our value, our sense of value and worth from external reality. And what happens is that our true essence of being, our true spiritual nature, the true qualities of our inner well-being, is completely obscured. We are anchored, our lives are so anchored in the external reality that we are completely inwardly disoriented. So people say to me, yes, I believe that we're three-dimensional: body, soul, spirit, body, mind, spirit, but we have no conceptual understanding of what that is, what that means, or how that even supposed to work. So you believe that you're a spiritual being having a human experience on this earth? Yes. What does that mean? How does that supposed to translate into a living experience? We have no idea. But the truth is, our true essence of being really is spiritual. And I'm not talking anything religious, but that's our true essence of being. This is all taught within our workshops, so we're not going to get deep into that. But in terms of what it means to our living experience and how we experience life on this earth, in terms of the quality of life, the level of living, the capacity that we have for fulfillment, for abundance, for success, it's all guaranteed to us when we flow with that creative order. The same flow, that same creative flow, it flows from the inside out, and that's the key. Life flows from the inside out, not just with the human body, from a seed, from the sperm. All matter evolves out of invisible energy. The creative order of life flows from invisible into visible, from the formless into form, from inner to outer. That's the natural creative order of flow. But just to simplify, instead of the qualities that define our spiritual life, which we can define down to two simple things: love and truth, rather than that being what configures and calibrates our mind and heart, which is what creates the perception of the world that we live in and how we interact with reality. How we perceive reality is determined by our mind and heart, which is what we call the soul. Rather than our soul being configured by spiritual qualities, we have been enculturated to have our soul defined by external qualities. So, in other words, we have inverted the flow of life. That creative order has been inverted, where life flows from the outside in. What that does, it creates a fracture in our soul or our mind and our heart. In other words, the way we think, how we feel, and how we act is all fractured. And that fracture creates a disorientation in the way we live. And we're going to understand this. I'm going to make this clear in a minute. But this fractured living, this is the this is the foundation from where what we call dis-ease springs. But I want us to also understand this is also the fundamental essence of why we may have relationship issues. It's why we have social polarization. It is why we struggle to make life work in every aspect of life. Health and healing, or sickness and disease, is just one aspect of the same model. They're not different things. The very thing that we need to put in order that brings about that natural flow of healing and health and well-being in our life is the very same thing that creates the very life that we desire and that we prefer to live. It's the very same principle. So understand, folks, our perception of reality and how we interact with the world and everything that we interact with in life, it's defined by the synergy or the condition of our minds and our heart, or the soul, which is the bridge between our invisible essence of spirit and our visible essence of body. The two natures that we have, it is bridged by the soul or the mind and the heart, which is what determines how we transact life and engage this thing we call living. And that's where the key is. Because when we start to take the value of life externally, it creates a conflict with our internal values, that inner conflict which obscures our spiritual identity, where we could only say, yes, I believe that I'm a spiritual being, but we have no conceptual understanding or even any awareness of what that really means. That inverted flow, just like if you were going against the flow of a river, it creates a resistance inside. And that is what stress is. People say stress, life is stressful. Life is not stressful. Life is just life. People are stressful. People are not stressful. People are just how they are, for whatever reason they are the way they are. That's just who they are. If it's stressful, it's not on them, it's on us. But stress leads to a dis-ease, an uneasiness that's on the inside that leads to disease. This is validated. And I just want to create that context of that model. So where we want to focus is right in the center. Our mind, our heart, our will, that inner conflict, what we call stress. Stress is not what's happening around us. Stress is what's happening within us, and it's because of this fracture between our inner and outer nature not being one and in harmony. And they're not in harmony because the bridge between them has become fractured. And I'll show you now, I'll bring it down to the dynamics of us understanding what I mean by that. First, let us see how stress really plays into it. Because all the authorities, the World Health Organization, the American Psychological Association, the Mental Health Foundation, they say 60 to 80% of people in a modern society live in a chronic or recurrent state of stress. Now, based on neuroscience research, you could also do that for yourself, it says 75 to 80% of people in a modern society live in a constant. And this is by looking at brainwave activity, looking at brain scan. People, we live stressed out. So much so, research shows that we could be sitting down watching TV and we are still in a state of stress and completely unconscious. We think that we're relaxed, but there's a lot of internal tension and a lot of it is subconscious. We have muscles that are tense while we're sitting down watching TV and don't even know that our muscles are tense. We live in a chronic state of stress. Now, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention says up to 90% of doctor visits are stress related. Stress is the basic cause of 70 to 90% of all human illness and disease. Over 90% of disease is caused by stress, thoughts, and belief. These are all validated scientifically. Now, if this is really the issue, what can we do about this? What is this thing called stress? Because now we're now treating stress like it is a disease. When I was growing up, I didn't hear much people talking about this. Now today, stress is everything. Is stress. When the doctors can't find an answer to your problem, guess what they say? It's stress or it's genes. And we don't understand it. If this is true, and it certainly is, it's just that we don't understand, just like we don't have the full understanding of what health is. We think health is external and health is about the body. Stress is not what we've been taught to think stress is either. And when we end up, but this thing we call stress is the major contributor that lies at the root because it comes out of this fracture, this conflict that goes within, and that conflict is between our true essence of being and how we've been conditioned and what we to live, and it creates that inner conflict. So stress arises from this inner conflict, and I'm going to break it down on the next slide for you to see. Stress is the conflict that arises when our mind and heart, or our soul, is out of alignment with our true essence of being. It is the emotional pressure that we feel. Instead of harmony, in a harmony, we feel this dissonance. And it's a pressure between how we are designed to live and how we've been conditioned to live. And that's the inner conflict. It stems from the insecurities of a cultural identity where actions betray our core values just so we can conform to societal norms. That's how we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned from young that our values is to be accepted, to fit in, and that it's about doing, not being. But we don't understand that when we operate from being, which is inward, the doing is far more effective. But we are conditioned, it's all about doing, and it's about achieving, and it's about all the external qualities because we are judged that way. So that inner conflict is mental and physical dissonance. There are 1,000 things that we can list, but here are some, and just think of it for yourself because we all fit into it in one way or another to one degree or the other. Stress is experiencing life one way and pretending it's another. We all are doing this every day. It's the conflict between what we desire, truly want in life, but what we believe is possible or not possible. It is saying we value the truth, yet not be honest about how we really feel. We do this in our interactions all the time. It is when our sense of well-being is defined by outer circumstances. It's having dreams of achievement, but feeling inadequate to pursue. It is wanting a healthy life, but neglecting to cultivate healthy habits. It's treating people in ways that we ourselves would not want to be treated. It is thinking or feeling one thing, yet staying and doing another thing. It is the instability and uncertainty of what can be called double-minded living. We live this way all the time. When I interact with people every day, and myself included, we're all working through these things. If our thoughts can be projected over our head on a screen, people would see what we say, what we do is very different to what's going on in our minds. It's a fracture. It's not coherent. It's not one seamless flow. We say one thing and we feel another. We sing one thing and we say another. It's this inner conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the source of stress. Stress is not your boss, it's not the people with their attitudes, it's not the bills that got to be paid, it's not the traffic you have to face, it is not any of the external realities. It is how we perceive that reality based on our inner framework that comes out of distraction. It is how we perceive and respond to them based on this internal framework. That is what stress is. So it's not about fixing outside and trying to make outside better. That will never change it. It's not changing and going to another country, going to another job, or living in another location. That doesn't change it. You might change the environment, but let me tell you, you always have to still live with yourself. We don't see life as it is. Remember that. We only see life as we are. We perceive life through the filter of our own inner state or our own inner well-being. So when our thoughts, when you think about it, we don't know, we have not been taught, because we emphasize external reality and our internal well-being is very obscure. We have never been taught of how to think. We just think. We don't know how to manage emotions or to cultivate positive emotions. We just feel reflexively. Somebody says something, we don't consciously decide, I'm going to feel hurt or I'm going to feel offended. It just reflexively happens because it's all been conditioned in there. But when our thoughts and emotions and our actions, when it all becomes one seamless flow, when what we think, how we feel, what we say, and what we do is one and the same, when there's no distinction between them, when it's one thing, that's when life flows from the inside out. That is where peace is. That is where true freedom is, which is very foreign to most of us. That is where the end of stress is, and that's the end of dis-ease, internal dis-ease. This is where, when people thwart the way back, this is where spontaneous healing begins to happen. People begin to taste this because of the placebo effect. Research, you can find this on the internet in the National Institutes of Health. If you were to, they did a placebo-controlled study with 3 patients that had knee replacement. They did the surgery, replaced the cartilage in the knees with 2 patients, and with one, they didn't do anything. They just made an incision, stitched it back, and told them it was as successful as the other 2, and that they could look forward to dancing again soon, and that they told them all the great things about it, and that they would go through the same therapy for 1 year. At the end of that year, to make a long story short, when they tested all of them, the 2 that had the surgery, they were doing well, and the one that didn't have the surgery, his body rebuilt the cartilage. Just simply because of what he believed and what he expected. We downplay that in medicine as though there's something wrong with that. Oh, it's just in your mind. Of course it's in your mind, but that's the power that's in the mind. And so we need to learn how to harness this, because our mind and our heart, our thoughts and our emotions, when they can synchronize into harmony, that's where we can believe and don't doubt. And when we can get to that place, nothing is impossible. That resides within us. And that flows, that synchrony between mind and heart is when life flows from our inner essence of being outward, as opposed to being conditioned from the outer reality inwards and being flipped in the opposite way. And so there is a process, a pathway, and principles of how we can find our way back to that. How does this translate into disease? This thing called stress, which is an inner conflict of being, a fractured way of living and thinking. How does it translate into disease? Well, this is how it happens. The central nervous system, which comprises the brain and the entire nervous system of the body, that is what creates the experience of life. If you were to shut down the central nervous system, we're zombies. We have no experience. We're walking dead. The central nervous system is what creates this experience. Now, the central nervous system also happens to be what governs all biological functions. Right down to the cellular level, it's governed by this. How is it doing that? The very source of life that built the body, fashioned it, organized it in the womb, the very force and source of life that's running it right now, that's rebuilding the cells, that's renewing it all the time, the very thing that built it and runs it and heals it, the flow of that very source, the bridge between that invisible power and the visible matter of our body, the bridge between it coming from source to function is the central nervous system. That's where it's happening. Now, let me explain how that works so you can get a handle on it. The central nervous system extends into what we call the autonomic nervous system. Don't get tired with the technicalities. This is taking something very complex and simplifying it. The autonomic nervous system, as it says, it is what's running everything automatically. We have trillions of things going on in our bodies right now, literally trillions, every minute, and we're not consciously involved. It's all running automatic. The autonomic nervous system is what's running it. It controls all of our bodily functions and is built and it's divided into two branches. One branch is called the sympathetic nervous system, and it deals completely with stress response. Whenever that system is dominant, because of what we call stress, it leads to all kind of what we call lifestyle diseases. Chronic stress promotes the very bedrock of disease, which is oxidation and systemic inflammation. There is no disease that develops in your body that is not rooted in oxidation and inflammation. And that is driven by the sympathetic nervous dominance. And it's what causes gut dysfunction, DNA damage, premature aging. So once the sympathetic nervous system is dominant, which it remains dominant when there is stress or when there is that inner fracture, this is what translates into disease. Because sympathetic nervous system dominance is what activates this whole inflammation response, oxidation response. Not to mention, and that's simplifying it, but the very thoughts and emotions that we are having that are negative, the anxiety, the anger, the frustration, all the resentment that we have suppressed, the traumas from the past that we don't let go, all of these negative energies, every cell in our body is reading the frequencies of it. The sympathetic nervous system is the overarching system that everything is becoming dysregulated, but the very frequency of the thoughts and the emotions themselves are changing the chemistry of the body. And every cell in the body, right down to the DNA, is reading the frequencies that are emitted by thoughts and emotions. This is all validated by psychoneuroimmunology, a medical science, epigenetics, quantum biology. These are all validated. So I'm just bringing us up to speed with information that shows us that we have the control over this. But we can choose to just go on with life, or we can take control and take responsibility of how this happens. Now, this is one of the two branches of the autonomic nervous system. The other one is the parasympathetic nervous system, and this one deals with healing and recovery. Now, this one becomes dominant when there is mind and body coherence, when the mind and heart, or thoughts and feelings, when actions, when everything that flows from the inside is harmonious, there is no friction. I'm not thinking one way and doing another way and feeling another way. It's all coherent. When there's that inner peace, when there's that homeostasis, when we are in that state of mind and that state of being, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes dominant. It optimizes immune function, cellular repair, and it starts to coordinate all biological systems. And we know this because it's all measured through brainwave activity. Because the language of the brain and the nervous system is electrical activity and what it's measuring, what it's measuring is the activity of the mind. All the activity of mind and consciousness is measured in what we call brainwave activity. Now, when our inner state is influenced by negative thoughts and emotion, brainwave activity activates the stress response or the sympathetic nervous system. When our inner state is balanced with positive thoughts, emotions, and feelings, love, peace, gratitude, compassion, when that's what governs our life, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes dominant, and that initiates the healing response. Do you understand that we are the ones that's in control of this? We are the ones that's in control, and we can do this. Now, how could we bring this all together? How could we engage it? And we'll look at that. But we need to understand that disease doesn't happen to us, it happens through us. And the condition of the body is determined 100% by the spiritual life that animates it. I'm not speaking of anything religious. This is a divine design. And so, if we can learn how we can tap this, if we can learn, and when I say disease happens through us, someone said to me the other day, but what about all these organisms and these bacteria and germs and viruses that can attack your body and so on? These things can come, but when inside is balanced, even if a virus got into your body, if you were parasympathetic dominance, if there was homeostatic control and coherence between your mind and body, viruses can do nothing to you except die and go their way. But what we don't understand is that when we are out of balance, when the inner environment is chaotic and disharmonious, and the sympathetic nervous system is dominant, and that stress response is active, it becomes the perfect environment for breeding organisms, because the role of the organisms is to turn whatever shows signs of not being fit for life back to the dust. That's their job. So they don't even have to come into your body. We'll create them right within our body. Just create the right environment. All these organisms that can contribute to illness, they all thrive in a particular environment, a very acid medium. And we can create that acid medium because negative thoughts and emotions are 5 times more acidic than even a bad diet is. That's what we're facing here. That's why we need to get a handle on this. So, have you ever seen a bag of rice that's stored in a cupboard in the wrong temperature, and you leave it there long enough and you come back and there are weevils in the bag? There's no holes in the bag. Where did the weevils come from? It came right out of the bag, right out of the rice. The right environment, it creates it right in there. That's also part of the flow of life. If you ever clean the chicken and take the chicken skin and put it in the container, tie the bag up, close the container, zip it tight, and you can look at it after a week, you'll see a bunch of maggots in there. No holes in the bag, no holes in the container. It emerged right out of the skin. It happens right inside our bodies as well. This is all biologically validated. We create an environment for the disease. So it happens through us, through and through. But it also means that healing is not something we have to initiate. That happens through us. It never stops. It's always flowing. It's just being blocked. We just need to remove that and watch the miracle happen. It's all inside of us. This is the future of health and healing. So, how could we unlock this natural flow? We have to harmonize thoughts, emotions, and actions to be one seamless frequency. How we think, what we feel, what we say, and what we do is one and the same thing. That's a tall order of living. That's wholeness at its best. But that only happens only when life flows from the inside out. We have to reorder. We have to flip the order back to its natural store. That restores the natural harmony between mind and body. That's what we call homeostasis. This integrates biological systems, optimize biological function, and healing, which is a natural process which never stops. It just, whatever needs repairing, just becomes repaired. That's it, and that is what restores parasympathetic dominance, which is the way we're naturally supposed to live, where our body is perpetually healing. We're in health because our body is perpetually healing. Because there is also a cycle of death and renewal that's taking place in the body. Old cells go, new cells come back. Something may come in and damage, the body repairs it. You get a cut, it's going to mend it, heal the skin, scab drop off, good as new. That continues. We are designed this way. Healing is an inherent design. We don't have to know how to do it, we just need to know how to release it to flow by removing what's blocking, what's corrupting, what's hindering, what's interfering with that flow. Now, let me tell you how we can do this. To do this, this is not easy because to get your thoughts, emotions, and actions to be one and the same, it takes examining your thought life, renewing your mindsets, looking at your emotional response to life, to people, to attitudes, learning to harness all of that. That is such engagement. It takes things like consistent meditation, metacognitive exercises, mindfulness practices, things that we find difficult to do. But what now if there was a way that we can engage technology to harness this inner capacity that already exists? If we can harness that, tap into that, amplify that, synchronize that, so that that what already exists within can begin to function and do its job without introducing anything foreign. What if we can do that? Well, I want to introduce you to a technology that helps us to do that. It's so simple, it could actually be missed. It is so simple, people don't get it at first because we do exactly what we did when Edison brought in the light bulb. We think that it's just another option to what currently exists in healthcare. I'm telling you this up front. It is nothing like anything that exists, and it works nothing like anything exists. It's the only thing of its kind in the world currently that does this. Understand what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about tapping in to your body's inner wisdom, innate intelligence, and removing the interference that's blocking it so that it does the job. Even though I'm saying this to you, when I introduce this technology to you and you see the simplicity and the profound nature and potency of it, should you decide, let me try it for my own well-being, your mind is going to default to the technology is what fixing it rather than my body is actually repairing because the interference has been removed. We'll just default to it's something external doing it. It's nothing external. So this technology was developed by this gentleman. He is a software engineer, very successful, very brilliant. When I learned about this technology, I gravitated to it because it fitted so perfectly in with my work and working with people from in their inner well-being because people struggle with this. This became a bridge to cross into inverting or reverting the flow from inside out, where we can now live not just more healthy, but more effective in every other area of life as well. That's why I love this technology so much. Not only how it has worked for me and how it has helped my life and others that I've shared it with, but and let me tell you what also caught my attention is that as a software engineer, he was not very, very successful financially, etc. He was not trying to create anything to change the world. That statement that he made when he launched it is that I'm here to build something generational that will transform the world. Well, that's a huge statement because to transform the world, you have to come up with something that's going to impact society so profoundly and change societal at a social level. And this has the capacity. Why? Because it's harnessing the power within. It's harnessing that. This gentleman set out on a mission to help his mother, who suffers with multiple sclerosis, a neurodegenerative condition to which there is no medical cure. He, from a boy, watched her suffer with it. She was supposed to have passed away a long time ago, but when he made his success and he made his multi-millions, he set around the world to find a solution for her problem, only to find out that there is no medical cure. And his quest was, as a software engineer, why is it that the brain cannot get the signal to the muscles? And so the muscles are wasting away. What's preventing that? And after 12 years of research and development, working with the most brilliant of minds in the field, he discovered something so simple of how we could actually tap in and unlock that potential that resides within. This is so marvelous that I had to try it for myself. And then when I saw what it was doing for people, I think it's in my 25 years of clinical practice and 30 years in the health and wellness industry, I believe I can clearly say there's nothing as profoundly impactful on human well-being that I've ever come across than this technology. I am going to show you a 1.5-minute video where Jay Dhaliwal is demonstrating the simplicity and the potency of his technology using measuring brainwave activity, which is one of the things that caught my attention. His company is called the Superpatch Company. It's a wellness technology company. Here's that video of him doing the demonstration. It's about 1.5 minutes long. He calls it vibrotactile trigger technology.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay Dhaliwal. I'm the CEO and founder of Vox Life and the creator of Vox Life HPT. Today, I want to talk to you about our Harmony Neuro Patch. And what this product does is actually stimulates receptors on our skin, sending a neurosignal to our brain to help it reach homeostasis. This is the only product in the world that relies on the neurohaptic system that every single one of us has to optimize our neurology and optimize our health. Today, with the help of Dr. Mark DeBrincat, our VP of Clinical Strategy, we're going to be using an FDA-cleared 19-channel EEG headset, as well as FDA-cleared software to visualize, record, and show the impact that our technology has on our neurology and our brains to help it reach optimal performance. What we want to show today is how the Harmony Neuro Patch helps that dysregulated yellow, blue, and red colors in the brain maps transform into that healthy green homeostasis neurology that is the foundation of health and wellness. So what we're looking at right now is a neurological QEEG output of Mike's limbic system. The 19 channels are reading over 60,000 brainwaves a second and generating an output of neurofunction and brainwaves. What we want to see now is where that suboptimal red and yellow colors are. We want to see them turning as much as possible to a healthy green with the application of our HPT patch. So we've applied the patch now to Mike's arm, and within 10 seconds, you're seeing that predominant yellow and red become predominantly green. Just for clarification, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing in the world that has this output at this rate of speed without drugs, without chemicals, without electricity. That's the power of Vox HPT. So when we see a healthy green neurology, what we're looking at is a brain and a mind in homeostasis. It is operating in its optimal function. And this is so important. And this is why it's so important. So Vox Life HPT, as we demonstrated with our Neuro Patch, helps the central nervous system reach homeostasis in our neurology. And the reason this is so important for overall wellness and health is that neurology is the top of the pyramid of our physiological health and wellness paradigm. First is neurology at the very top, then there's chemistry, then there's biology, then there's physics and mechanics. Neurology will have an impact all the way through our entire physiology. Healthy neurology, healthy body, better wellness.
The technology is based on Nobel Prize research. Before I say more on that, we just need to be aware that when we measure brainwave activity, we're measuring the activity of the mind. Brain waves reflect the activity of the mind. So, whatever state of mind or state of being we are in, the brain waves reflect that. That's important for us to understand. And I'm just simplifying it because there's a direct link between the brainwave activity, which is reflecting our state of mind or our inner state of being. There's a direct link between that and the influence on the autonomic nervous system. So, what is scientifically shown is that if the brainwave activity, when it's erratic, when it's not coordinated, when it's in a restless state, which is what we saw in the demonstration. Anyone who may be familiar with brainwave scanning and activity know that red and yellow colors is always a sign of erratic and unstable brainwave activity, whereas green is indicative of more coherent, more orderly functioning between the hemispheres of the brain. It's a more coherent and orderly functioning, which when it's coherent and orderly, you get parasympathetic dominance, meaning the healing response naturally opens up when that happens. When our brain is in an erratic state and the brainwave activity reflects that, that's when when there's parasympathetic dominance. Sorry, sympathetic dominance, meaning the stress response and the body's inability to heal and repair properly. So, what if there was a way that we, besides in training our brain through mindfulness exercises and meditation and so on, what if there was a way that we can actually retrain our brains, bring the brainwave activity, which does two things. It enhances, but it coordinates mind-body interaction. So it enhances biology, but it also enhances mentality. Wow, what an amazing thing. Without drugs, chemicals, substances, frequencies, without any of that to do that. The Nobel Prize research basically, and you can look up these names, but just for reference, they back in the 1930s, 40s, one of the Nobel Prize was given to Dr. Rabi, who discovered that every cell in the human body, just like all matter, transmit and receive electromagnetic waves. In other words, also validated by epigenetics, every cell is a transceiver. It transmits and receives electrical impulses. Our whole body is a whole generator of frequencies. Then, more recently, these two Nobel Prize laureates discovered that there are receptors in the skin called piezo ion channels that convert vibration from anything that touches the skin. It converts that tactile, that touch, the texture, the temperature into electrical signals and goes to the brain. That's just the normal language of the body. Anything that touches the skin is converted into electrical impulse, goes to the brain, and the brain identifies what it is. And that's how we are able to move around in this world and navigate our way, through life. Through these so to think of it, how the patch works is like thinking about a QR code. A QR code is a quick response code, and it's just an alignment of patterns. You could have 100 codes with any number of patterns, but each pattern has data in it. If you were to scan that with your camera, it will tap in when you scan it through the internet, and it will take you to whatever the information is. It's a website, it's a document, whatever data is embedded in the pattern. In a very similar way, what is proprietary to the Superpatch company after 12 years of research and now 15 years of production of this technology, embedded within this pattern, these ridges, there are ridges on each patch, embedded in the ridges are micro patterns. That pattern, when you put the patch on your skin, it sends an electrical signal to your brain, and the brain interprets and integrates the information according to the pattern into the brainwave activity, into the neural response systems of the brain. So it works just like it's similar, just like a QR code. It's just reading. In other words, our skin becomes like the camera that scans the pattern and sends the data to the brain. The brain interprets it into what neural pathway it corresponds with. That's the simplicity of it. A pattern touching your skin, synchronizing brainwave activity to streamline and amplify what naturally exists. And one thing, the result is the body begins to do what it naturally does when the interference is removed. That is so beautiful. But the bonus of that is because neurology, because the brain is processing all of your biology and is processing all of thoughts and emotions, you're not just enhancing biology, you're enhancing your psychology as well. And that is transformative. Nothing else exists on the planet that is so completely natural that just interfaces with, taps into your own inner intelligence for it to do its job naturally. After the 15 years of research and development, vibrotactile technology has become peer-reviewed, published research that is now attracting and demanding attention from some of the major minds around the world. It's posted in some of the world's prestigious medical journals. And last year, the Superpatch company was invited, the World Congress of Psychiatry, the World Congress on Pain, the European Sleep Research Society, to present their technology and the groundbreaking research that they've done, because no one has ever seen anything that is so simple that has such a profound on human well-being. This is going to be the future of wellness, the future of where no drugs are needed. But the bonus to that is, this is of course my perspective, is that when we learn to tap into it and begin to cultivate and nurture our well-being, to turn the order back into its natural flow, which these patches make the journey so much easier to do, we are looking at up-leveling our living in ways that was very difficult to tap into before. So the Superpatch company has created a technology that harnesses and restores this mind-body communication so that when the mind and body harmonize through brainwave synchronization, the mind becomes more orderly, biological systems become more coordinated. This reestablishes homeostasis and it optimizes the body's self-healing capacity. The patches don't heal. The patches unlock what exists in our bodies to heal, what's naturally encoded there. It just unlocks that. Superpatch has found so far 13 ways that when you stick any of these 13 patches onto your skin, it unlocks a particular neural pathway, synchronizes the brainwave activity to unlock that pathway, whether it is for pain, whether it is for sleep, whether it is for energy, whether it is for stress, whether it is for immune response, whether it is for focus, concentration, and cognitive decline. It unlocks it and it just flows naturally. Understand that. The patches don't do it. The patches are synchronizing the brainwave, removing the resistance so that the flow is free. And it optimizes that signal. The signaling from brain to body happens. Because of this, Jane Dhaliwal's mother is still alive today because she's been helped with this technology. So we have mind-body solutions that enhances physical and mental well-being. It's backed by research, it's clinically proven, it's FDA registered, not FDA approved, because approval is only needed for substances that are ingested. All the clinical trials are available on the website, the neuroscience references and research. This is all bona fide validated science and research that works. And they are not, it's so effective that they work, you get almost immediate results. For some people, everybody's different, everybody's have different sources of imbalances, so it works different. We have loads of testimonies from people all over the world that's been using it. What I particularly like about it is that there are no contraindications. So it doesn't matter what medication you're on, there's no interactions, there's no allergic reactions, there's zero ingredient, there's nothing to worry about. That makes them extremely safe, non-invasive, easy to use, even for children. And what surprised me when I first decided I'm going to try these is that accessible pricing that anybody can access. So mind-body harmony, which is the key to homeostasis, which is the key to unlocking the potential that we possess. More than that, people that have been using these patches over a period of time, because understand, when you start to harness that inner intelligence, when you start to synchronize brainwave activity to streamline that, when you remove the interference, people are saying that their disposition, their attitude towards certain things, how it's just changing. Why? Because the mind is becoming more orderly in its function. So this is not about using a patch because I have a symptom. This is not another form of a medicine to make you feel better. This is unlocking a potential that resides within. This is healing from the inside out. This is tapping into the wisdom within by removing the resistance that's created by what? A fractured state of being, by just aligning it. Now, what it does is that it causes a more orderly way of thinking through consistent use. How does that happen? It's called neuroplasticity. It's a phenomenon where the brain begins to reorganize and rewire and retrain itself to the new frequency of balance that the patches are initializing. The brain begins to rewire itself, and as that happens over time, it creates a different sense of well-being. Now think about cultivating your thought life, your emotional response, and harnessing that mind-body synchrony. It just goes way beyond feeling better in your body. It goes way beyond that. This is literally transformative. The patch that Jay just demonstrated is the Liberty patch. You talk about, you will see, we can do a test with you. You can have it done where you can check your balance and stability. And just by pure physics, you test your balance, how much force it takes for you to lose balance, and you put on the Liberty patch, and within a matter of seconds, it's a phenomenal more amount of pressure and leverage it takes to move you. Your stability, your strength, and your balance changes in a matter of seconds when you put on the Liberty patch. This is foundational. This is the one that brings your brain into more coherent and orderly function. If this was the only patch that the company had, it would be worth it, because to bring your brain into that kind of coherence and harmony with mind-body connection, it takes a experienced meditator who's been meditating for years to be able to accomplish that type of harmony. When it comes to sleep, talking about REM sleep, restorative sleep, falling asleep faster, deeper sleep, where your body repairs, replenishes, and rejuvenates, most people don't know what that level of sleep is. The REM patch takes you right down into that level of sleep. So people who may have issues with that, this will be a very big help for you. The peace patch, it promotes a sense of calm in a matter of moments. You're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, in a very matter of moments, it's going to bring your stress and anxiety down. You develop more emotional resilience with repeated and consistent use. But more than that, it balances your autonomic nervous system. This is life-changing when you get that. It enhances mental and health factors by 24%. This is all done in the clinical studies. The Defend patch, this is you don't leave home without it type of thing. This the way I've not come across anything that upregulates the immune system and immune response as fast and as efficient as this Defend patch. Excellent. You're talking about pain without any substances. You put on the Freedom patch, 72 reduction in pain. Most people get it in a matter of minutes. Last 24 hours, people prefer to use the Freedom Super Patch over over-the-counter medications. And people prefer this over the anti-inflammatory medications because it's safe and it doesn't have the side effects. If you're into sports, you're into athletic performance, the Victory patch, you want to see more power, you want to see increased speed, strength, and performance. You put this on and you go into the gym, right away you're going to be able to tell the difference in your power, your strength when you exercise. Absolutely amazing. Energy, listen, the energy drinks, they're harmful. They're toxic to your brain, toxic to your liver, toxic to your blood, toxic to your kidneys. They are not healthy for you. You want clean, pure energy that is sustainable and comes with enhanced alertness without all the crashes and the jitters. The Boost patch, this is, I call it energy on demand. People who want to have clearer minds, enhanced focus, concentration, better cognitive function, the Focus patch, you stick that on, sends a signal, it synchronizes your brainwave activity into the pathways that deals with cognitive enhancement. Your mind functions better. Joy, people who are, maybe you're feeling depressed, you're in a low mood, you want to have that, you want to be lifted up out of it, you want to have that more positive sense of well-being, the Joy patch is wonderful for that. Kick It, this is people who want to find it difficult to break healthy habits. It regulates the emotional centers where these habits are encoded, so it becomes easier to let go of some of these addictions that we may have, not just substance addictions or food addictions, but things like thinking addictions, people that have the habits of overthinking and they can't seem to help it, people who tend to think the worst reflexively, people that have negative reflexive thought patterns and emotional responses. It helps to soften and bring all that down, where you can now begin to nurture it a whole lot easier. You want healthy, vibrant skin. And I mean, people have been using it. It's helped people with a lot of skin conditions, but it really is just helping to target a healthier skin. And along with that, people with various skin issues, see them clear up. You're trying to get off that excess weight, you can't get enough activity, you want to burn more calories at rest, the Ignite patch will do that. For us men who we get up into our senior years and we tend to, our masculine function begins to decline, this is going to help you to reclaim that virility, more energy, more stamina, and so on. So our brain waves is an expression of our inner state, and a brain in sync is a body in balance. I don't know anything that exists that taps into this natural response system, this built-in inner design, that when the brain rhythms flow harmoniously, the body systems resonate in accord, and this synchronized order is what nurtures that flow of healing vitality. Now, super patches, when you combine them, there are ways in which you combine them that up levels things even greater. We're not going to get into that, but I'm introducing you to a technology that helps us to harness the front end that we went through. Stress, that fractured state of being, that's the pipe. We want to fix the pipe and not keep mopping the floor. That is inner work that we have to do. That takes cultivation and nurturing. And that, when we cultivate it and nurture it, we streamline our brainwave activity. But here's a technology that is so simple and so safe, but so profoundly powerful that it entrains our brainwave activity to give us the response and help us now to cultivate more effectively. Wow, this is transformative. They're very simple to use. Peel it, stick it on, stick anywhere on your body as long as there's not a lot of hair to alter the micro patterns there, or you don't put it over scars where the nerves might have been severed, things like that, but very safe. And all the patches, they undergo intensive research, real world applications, validated by not just the research and development team, but their scientific advisory board. of which these are some of them. You can get information on them on the internet. So I want to invite you to start getting your life aligned, getting mind and body aligned. And I want to encourage you to consider cultivating your well-being from the inside out, because this is more than just the future of health and healing, a new era of wellness that we're introducing. This is about enhancing your overall well-being, where you become more effective in the way you engage life. Feeling good in your body, better in your mind is just a part of it. But you want your relationships, you want your success, your engagement on every level to be effective, because the truth is this: our reality, which is perceived from the inside out, is what creates the life that we desire. When it flows from the inside out, we can have whatever life we desire. And we'll understand how that works as we get in to our workshops. So we don't want to get to the place where we are finally old enough to do anything we want, but we're now too tired to actually do it. So don't let aging get you down. It might be too hard to get back up. That's why we need Super Patch. It's interesting, folks, as I close, that the World Health Organization says the number one cause, or the number one cause of lifestyle disease, the number one risk factor for lifestyle disease is aging. But aging, what they don't say is that aging is accelerated prematurely, along with what it brings with it, because of what we call stress, which comes from a fractured state of being. Stress is an inner thing. It's not an outer thing. So when we go about our day and we have to face the music of life, understand that it may not be ideal or what we prefer, but it's how we perceive it based on the lens that we look through, shaped by our synchrony of heart and mind, our inner well-being. If we can harness that, we'll change our lives. So that's what I want to share with you tonight. And I look forward to, when we get into our workshops, how we will step into a whole dynamics of principles and a pathway and a process of how we can engage life on deeper and higher levels. And so one of the ways that Jay Dhaliwal is getting this technology out to the world is that it's through personal experience, like mine and yours. If you try it, you'll see what it will do for your life, and we sharing it with others. I use it professionally, I use it casually, I introduce it to people, and through personal experience is how this will get to the world, because there's nothing better than the trust of someone who's used it saying, this is what it's done for me. And so Superpatch is expanding their business globally through you and I. And for people who may have an interest in that, people who may be looking for financial opportunity, who are looking for other sources of income. And I'm talking about, they have created an economic model unlike any model that has existed before. The concept is known, but the model is very different, is as unique as the patch is unique. For those who might be interested in exploring that, I'm going to talk about that on Monday evening at 6 o'clock. If you're interested, connect with me, or if you were invited on this call with someone, connect with them, and you can get the Zoom link if you're interested in exploring that and hearing what that's about. And we also will deal with, that's more interactive, where you get to ask questions regarding the economic model, the technology, or anything we spoke about tonight. And so with that, I want to really thank you for taking the time, all of you, of coming on, listening to what I shared with you. I hope you would have heard something that would inspire, encourage, empower you to want to take your life to the next level. And so, folks, God bless you. Thank you. And if you want a copy of the recording to go over what was shared, feel free to reach out to me and I'll send you a copy of the recording.